Okay, so we're going to be doing 5.4 Ready, Set, Go, numbers 7, 8, 9, and 10, which kind of all deal with each other. So it says the figure shows two storage silos for grain, 1 and 2. A silo is just a gigantic bin. The diameter of each measures 24 feet, and the height of the cylinder measures 51 feet. The height of the cone, do you see the cone at the top of the silo? Adds an additional 12 feet. Find the volume of one silo. So I like to break things down because that's the way my brain goes. So the very first thing is I have a cylinder, and this is what my cylinder kind of looks like. Got it? And then I'm going to label my cylinder. So it says the diameter is 24 feet. So I go like this. This is 24 feet. And it says the height is 51 feet. Okay. And then it has a cone. So I'm going to go plus. I'm going to change colors. I'm going to go plus cone. So my cone is going to look like this. Okay, there's my cone. And it says the cone adds an additional 12 feet. So the height of this cone, which we draw like this, is 12 feet. Okay. One of the assumptions that you're going to make, and you can actually see it here in this picture, is that the diameter for the cylinder is the same as the diameter for the cone. Once you have that, then you're pretty much done, because then you could just look up all of your formulas or on your sheet of paper or whatever the case might be. So I'm going to draw my little diameter in. It is still 24 feet. I'm going to write my formulas in. Volume equals pi r squared h for my cylinder. And volume equals 1/3 pi r squared h for my cone. So once I have the drawing in there, then I'm pretty much done, and all I'm going to do is just plug in everything. Okay, so the hard parts, I'm just going to say, number 1, breaking this silo up into its two parts, cylinder plus cone. Second part was knowing that the diameter of the cone was the same as the diameter for the cylinder, and then making sure that you're using the correct formulas. So I'm just going to plug in now. So it goes volume equals pi times radius squared times the height. Now here's the key. Do not plug in 24 because that's your diameter. If your diameter is 24, that must mean that your radius is 12. And I'm going to write 12 feet so we can play with units to know exactly what our units are. Our height is 51 feet, so I'm going to put 51 feet. And then I'm going to add that to 1/3 pi r squared times h. H in this case is 12 feet. Oops. 12 feet. R in this case is still 12 feet. So there's my formula. I'm going to just plug this in to my handy dandy calculator. So my handy dandy calculator says pi times 12. Give me 1 second. All right, so pi times 12, and then that's squared. Oops, I didn't get that. So that's squared times height, which is 51, plus 1/3 pi again times 12 squared times 12. So there's my answer. And then you should be asking, okay, well, what is that unit, right? And so if you look here, let's look at our units. So we have feet squared, right? We have feet squared times feet, which would be feet cubed. So this is feet cubed over here. This is feet cubed over here. Plus this over here is the same. It's feet squared times feet, which is still feet cubed. That's good because in order to add two things together, they have to be the same unit, right? 2 apples plus 2 apples is 4 apples, right? So then my answer, it's this number here, and then it's just feet cubed. So my final answer is 24,881.4. I'm just going to go like that, feet cubed. cubic feet. So can you imagine me filling this with a bunch of perfect cubes, right? And there's no space, no gap, and I'm allowed to cut my, my cubes up so that they'll fit really nicely. So I would get 24,881.4 of those cubes in there. And each cube is measured by 1 foot by 1 foot. So number 8 says, how many bushels of grain will each silo be able to store if a bushel is 1.244 cubic feet? So assume it could be filled all the way to the top. Okay. There's going to be no room in there. Okay. So what we now need to do is we need to take this number here. So this is our answer for number, let's just highlight it. This is our answer for number 7, right? It says, how many bushels of grain will each silo be able to store if a bushel is 1.244 cubic feet? Okay, so now I'm going to take this and I'm going to multiply this by 1 bushel is the same as 1.244 feet cubed. Now, whenever I do this, I always think about either chem, which is stoichiometry, or converting units. So they're asking me how many bushels. So I want my answer to be in bushels. Okay. But right now my answer is in feet cubed. So I want to take my answer and divide out those feet cubes. Do you see how this is going to divide out to my feet cubes? And now I have this number. Now that answer is going to be in bushels. So I'm going to take my number that's right here, 24,881, and I'm just going to round it so I don't have so much decimal. 24,881.4 divided by 1.244. That's how many bushels. That's how many bushels I have. Okay, so I'm just going to go with 20,000.01. Give me a second. Okay, so then I'm going to write my answer as 20,001 bushels. I'm just going to leave it like that. Okay. So now we can do number 9, which I was like really confused. Like, how am I not understanding this problem? Okay. So density relates to the degree of the compactness of a substance. A cubic inch of gold weighs more. The density of grain also varies. Use the information given to calculate how many tons of each type of grain can be stored in one silo. So I'm going to go with 20,001 bushels. So if 1 bushel of oats weigh 32 pounds, how much would 20,000 bushels weigh? So I go like this. I go 20,001 bushels times 32 pounds, right? But then they said how many tons. So now I'm going to multiply this. I'm going to go with one big expression. So if each bushel weighs 32 pounds, and I should go 32 pounds is 1 bushel. So do you see how my units are going to cancel there? It's going to divide out. Bushel divided by bushel is the number 1. There's no more bushels. Right here, I'm going to multiply this by this unit. Again, I want to cancel out the pounds. So the pounds is going to go on the bottom. So 2,000 pounds divided by 1 ton. I'm sorry, 1 ton divided by 2,000 pounds. In reality, people always ask, like, Ms. Johnson, you're like dividing by whatever number you want. In reality, this is the number 1, right? It doesn't look like the number 1 because it's 32 pounds in 1 bushel, but in reality, this is the number 1. Okay, it's just because they have different units does it not look like the number 1. So can you please imagine this saying like a $20 bill divided by $21 bills, right? The value is still the same. It's $20 divided by $20, even though one $20 bill looks very different than $21 bills, right? So then I'm just going to continue. So if you notice here, my bushels and my bushels divide out. My pounds and my pounds divide out. So my only unit of measurement is going to be tons. So I'm just going to multiply that across and see what I get. So I get, let's see, I am going to use 20,000. So 20,001 times 32 divided by 2,000 is 320.02 tons. So 320.02 tons. Okay. So the way I did this, I'm going to show you again because you're going to practice on your own. So the way I did this is I just took the number of bushels that fit in here. I multiplied it by the number of pounds in one bushel. And then I multiplied it by how many pounds are in a ton. So 1 ton divided by 2,000 pounds gives me how many tons. And I know that this unit of measure is right because all the way through, I made sure my units were correct. So you're going to follow the similar pattern here and here. So that way you can do that. And I'll just write out my answer so you guys can check it later. So pause the video, check your answers, pause your video and come back and check your answers. So it's going to be about 480.03 tons. And this one is going to be about 600.03 tons. And it might be a little bit off depending on what you're using as your pi. I actually used pi from Desmos, so it gave me it gave me a lot of accuracy. If you're using 3.14, you can imagine that your numbers might be slightly off, as much as 1 to 2 units off. Okay, don't think that it's slightly off and this is the number 10. No way. That's too off. Okay, so with that being said, it says a 3/4 ton pickup has the capacity to haul more than 1,500 pounds. If the hauling bed of the pickup measures 4 feet by 6.5 feet by 2 feet, can a 3/4 ton pickup safely haul a full level of load of oats, barley, or wheat? Justify your answer or for each type of grain. Okay, so first of all, I need to draw this thing because I don't understand what they're talking about. So a hauling bed of a truck looks like a rectangular prism. So I'm going to draw that. So here's my rectangular prism. Pretend that I'm a really great drawer. So this is the hauling bed, right? And it measures 4 by 6.5 by 2. So 4 by 6.5, these are feet, by the way. And so I can clearly see this is not to scale because it doesn't look to scale, but that's okay. Can a 3/4 tons pickup safely haul a full level of oats, barley, or wheat? Okay, can it safely haul that? So the first thing that I want to do is I want to figure out what's the volume of this thing. That's the first thing I want to do. Oops. So when I multiply these out, I get volume equals 6.5 feet by 4 feet by 2 feet. And let's see, that's 13 times 4 is 52. I think that's right. 13 times 4 is 52. Yeah. So this is 52 feet cubed. 52 feet cubed. Okay. So it says okay, so this is how many feet cubed it is. Now we need to figure out how many, how much this would weigh in here for each of these. But the only weight that we have is a bushel, right? So clearly, this truck is not going to be able to hold this whole silo worth of oats or barley, right? So we need to figure out if we fill this thing up to the brim. So we're right here if you're thinking about where we are. We then need to figure out how many bushels it is, which then we're going to figure out, if we know how many bushels, then how many pounds that is. Okay. So right now, what I would like you to do is pause the video, and then try to emulate this part right here from this information. A bushel is 1.244 cubic feet. Okay. All right, so now that you're back, I'm going to do this with you, except for I'm going to scooch this over a little bit and then make it a little bit smaller so that we can see more stuff. Okay, so the first thing that I'm going to do, so again, this is my answer for one of those, but now I'm going to take this and I'm going to multiply it by 1 bushel over 1.24 feet cubed. And then do you see how these two units, feet cubed, would cancel and I'm going to be left with a bushel? That's going to tell me how many bushels are going to fit volume-wise in here. So I'm going to bring my guy back over here, close some of these out because I don't need them. It's just taking up room. Okay, so here I go 52 divided by 1.244. So I get 41.8 bushels. Okay. So 41.8 bushels. And you're like, okay, well, how does that help us, Miss Johnson? So now they want us to figure out if oats would be safely hauled in there. And that has to do with the pound limit that they have. Now, I don't know if you know this, but trucks have a pound limit. Like you can't just haul anything any kind of way. You have to pay attention to how much it can haul. So here, I'm going to take 41.8 bushels and I'm going to see how many pounds that is by multiplying it by this unit here. So I'm going to multiply that by 32 pounds. So I'm going to go 41.8 bushels times 1 ton. Oh, no, sorry. By 32 pounds. I'm going to use the shortcut divided by 1 bushel. So let's see what that is. So 41.8, and then I'm going to multiply that by 32. And so it gives me this number. So that number, let's write that there, is 1,337.62 watts. What would be that unit right here? What unit am I measuring in? So some of you see that the bushels would divide out because those are common factors. And so you know that this is pounds. Very good. So then we're going to go back to our problem. And our problem says that a 3/4 ton pickup can haul as a little more than 1,500 pounds. So because this is under, we're good on oats. Oats, yes. Oats is a yes, right? So this is pounds. This is oats. I'm going to write oats here. So the answer for oats is yes. Yes, we can do that. Now, notice here, you're going to be multiplying the same number by 48 and 60, and we don't want that number to go over 1,500. So I'm going to do that really quick. So that's 48. Oh, it's 2,000. So this is already a no. So I don't even multiply this one because if this is a no, then this is automatically a no. So the answer is yes for oats, but no for barley because that's a way too heavy. It's way too heavy. Okay. So hopefully this makes sense. Hopefully you're seeing this unit. It's called dimensional analysis. It reminds me a lot about stoichiometry. It also reminds me a lot about just multiplying and canceling out things that you know can cancel out. So thank you for listening.